the board. I think we had a reorganization. Dave Topaz here.
Yeah, my name is Dave Topaz, and I'd like to invite the other board members.
You want some chairs? Wait, I just take the problem.
I'm sorry. If I could, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to stand so I don't have my back to the audience and address the board and the audience.
Absolutely. I'd like to start the meeting, as all of you are aware, the tragedy involving the Peaceful Assembly. John Cannell lost his life in that fire, so I'd like to start this by taking a moment of silence in honor of John. Thank you for that. Board of Selectmen called this meeting with the Peaceful Assembly to just kind of get an idea of how you folks stand on the church, and what your intentions are in that building. As you're aware, there's a great amount of sentiment in the town that's attached to that building and to the historical preservation of that building. We have received numerous phone calls, at home, in the office, asking us about this. So we wanted to ask you folks, what's your position on it at this time? Obviously, there's, the pending tax deed going on. Not sure if you folks are planning on paying that taxes on that, or if at this time you were thinking of letting it go with the taxes. So we're just looking for some response from you as a board, so we can kind of have some response for the town, because they're very interested in saving the building if the board is not. So I'm going to pass this over to the chairman of the board this time for the Peaceful Assembly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Dave Topaz. I have property on Razor Hill Road. We recently reorganized our board and brought in some new teammates. And first I'd like to introduce them, and then I'd like to give a little synopsis of my involvement and what brought me to this point today. Again, my name is Dave Topaz, and I'm the chair of the Peaceful Assembly Church Board. Our vice chairwoman is Sonia McPhail. Tiffany Harbridge, she is our co-secretary. Ron Crozier is a board member as well, and Bobby Newman. These are some of my colleagues from Massachusetts, and I know how sometimes out-of-towners are portrayed, but before you pass judgment on any individual, I would ask that you take the time to meet these fine people, as I've worked with them for over a decade at various different capacities. And I brought them in at this point in time because I saw a great need. So with that being said, I'd like to go into a little bit of an explanation of what brought me here. And I'd also like to thank the selectmen. It was very gracious of you to accommodate this meeting today and to bring us all together, so thank you very much for that. As I said, I've been up here. I'm a kind of a new transplant. About 4 years now, I've been making the trip from Massachusetts to New Hampshire every week. I appreciate greatly what you folks have here in Grafton. Back home, born and raised in Western Mass, I've worked for my town as a conservation commissioner So I've got to see how sausage is made on the inside. I've got to raise a family on the outside under the regulatory burdens that we create and oversee and enforce. When I came up here, I think I came here for the same reasons that many of the Liberty folks or the Free Staters or Free Towners, I believe the names are used interchangeably. I think they recognize something fantastic that the locals, the people that grew up here in this town, they recognize what you folks appreciate too. What I found from where I sat, which I felt was very disturbing, because in the 13 years that I've worked in the municipal environment, I've seen both ends of the spectrum where people don't work together and projects flounder, and then people do work together and they thrive. And I can point to one example. Our open space committee back home had a sincere need for youth athletic fields and things like that. And we took the care, custody, and control of a failed subdivision, and we had grand visions of, doing that, just that, bringing in some fields for the kids, walking paths, a whole variety of things. And right up front, we hit with negativity. People who would drive by, roll down their windows and laugh and say, "You're looking through life through rose-colored glasses. It's easy to say we'll get volunteers and, the project will move forward successfully." And it never happens. People say things and don't follow through. And the gentleman who said that was right, because I have seen that happen a lot. But we were persistent, and we had a good core group of people that was working with us. And, we had our work parties. Entire soccer leagues were showing up. Boy Scouts. We even had the locals like to call them the chain gang, but the kids that were on community service that dress up in the green vests and come out and with the trash kebabs and pick up on the side of the road, we invited them out to make a soccer field one day. And just to show how sometimes little things that you can see right up front blossom into something nice. These kids came out, worked side by side with many of the locals and the Boy Scouts and the soccer league, and the news shows up. Of course, all the adults love to run up and get in front of the camera, a big press opportunity for the big kids out there. They just love that camera. And I sat there as the organizer of this thing, so a few parents cuddled up around the bulldozer where the cameras were. And I watched this group of kids in their chartreuse green vests walking off, almost like someone fired a starting gun, like they weren't worthy, and they removed themselves from the picture. Well, I went over there, and I insisted that they take off those awful vests, throw them in a pile, and climb up on the bulldozer. Made themselves front and center in that picture. Our little work party broke up. Parents went and took their kids home. The chain gang guys got in their van and drove back to Springfield. And a few of us hardcores were going to sit around and work a little bit more because it was still daylight. And 2 trucks pulled in that we didn't recognize. And I'll be darned if these bad seeds didn't finish their time, get out of the van, hop in their own private vehicles, and drive to my town to work beside those people again. They didn't have to. They could have gone home. If they were bad kids, they could have gone back to smoke pot in the graveyard, but they didn't. They got in their own vehicles, and they drove out, and they finished helping us build that soccer field. And the same individual comes from a snooty area by the lakes, drives by, and here we are. Brush is all gone, burned, cleaned up. We got a perfectly flat area, just ready for grass seed. It was the only thing. It was a big expense though. We were looking at about $1,000 just for grass seed. And this same guy that told me I was crazy for thinking we were going to do anything as a volunteer project, pulls up again, rolls down his window, and hands me a $1,000 check, and I hear, "You need seed money," pun intended. And we got a check for $1,000 to finish that project on. And we took people that were, you know, higher ups in town that were used to all the notoriety and always being treated as dignitary, down to those that were hauled in there in a van wearing chartreuse green vests. And somehow, some way, a few reasonable people were able to get everyone working together and pulled off something great. And to this day, we have fields and paths that were done purely by volunteer work and private donations. See, I wasn't a big fan of grants many times. The strings that bind you prohibit future movement, so we did want to do this ourselves, and we did. Now, how does that translate up here? Over the course of the last 4 years, I wasn't here for the trials and tribulations as this began, but when I did come into town, I came in as really just a small government, small town, angry country boy. Your town of Grafton is what Belchertown in Massachusetts was to me as a child. It's very, very similar. So I was attracted to this area for that reason. It wasn't any of the Free State people, and it wasn't any locals. It was a nice community that I was familiar with. I looked around, and I want to retire up here. And I'd like to be able to call everyone in this room my friend and my neighbor. I like to think that we can work together. But as I watched this with the church unfold, I saw, again, a beautiful community, a small government community focused on taking care of yourselves, which I can respect. Again, remember, I'm a department head. Back home, it is not unusual for me to look at faces like yours who own property that can, you know, say we've got a beautiful mountain range that gets turned into a view shed. It's easy for the regional apparatus to come in and convince you don't want a house or anything horrible on that mountainside we'd have to look at, so let's call this a view shed. Step one, boom, voted in, done deal. A year or two down the road, the poor suckers, they've got to look up and see that, are now going to have to foot the bill. You now are, you're going to be taxed, you're in a view shed, you see. And I watch as we give away good money after bad as far as tax dollars. We give up our land use control to people with outside interest. And what do we wind up with? We wind up with higher taxes. Less say over what we do on our own properties.
I understand your feelings and stuff, but I'm not sure where we're going with. All we are concerned about today is to just understand what the board of directors are planning on doing. The total tax system and that stuff, I don't know that has. It's a whole lot. I mean, all we brought it together, all we brought the board together for was just to have an idea of what their plans were for the building, and that's it. I mean, we're not going into.
I understand that. I want the board. I'm getting right into that now. I want the board.
That would be good.
Be introduced to myself. I know I'm a relative new face, so I'd like to bring a little bit about me to the table as well.
Yeah.
But I will get right to that.
Thank you.
As I began to settle in the town, I made friends on all sides because I don't look at walls and work on one side or the other. So I've met some locals up here who became very good friends of mine. Some of the folks in the Free State Project, and as a matter of fact, one of the people that I find that you're often at odds with is an individual who was on his belly in the dirt underneath that same church insulating it. You know, not everybody is all bad, and I certainly hold that opinion on both sides of the fence here too. But I do find it a shame that you've got something beautiful here, that obviously the locals have been here for a long time and love and appreciate. The Free Staters, as they came in appreciation of those same things, and we drew battle lines. And as sure as I am standing here before you today, if I can tear those battle lines and those walls down, I will. The intentions of us and the reason we got involved in the late hour in which we got involved in is because no one found that middle ground where the town's people, the town's fathers, the church came together under a common cause. I'm coming in with a fresh outlook, with fresh energy, and each one of the people that I've brought in with me to the board was hand-selected for a very specific reason. We have people that are outstanding in business plans, who are going to lay out chart a course for us forward that is going to be financially stable, that is going to be an asset to the community. There are two ladies that I just introduced you to, who's in their core feel compelled to feed people. And I'm going to ask Sonia later to go through just a partial list of some of the things we were working on before the fire. It includes a full food pantry, soup kitchen, Meals on Wheels, scary things like that. Well, when it became obvious nothing was going to happen, we were at the point of losing the church. This church has been in existence since 1798 and has been a part of this town's history for that long. And what happened a week ago, my heart sunk. I literally, as I was watching that church burn, Sonia and I were in possession of a check for $13,000. I wanted to make this cost neutral. I wanted to try to bring everybody together. That didn't happen. One thing led to another. We have a horrible fire, horrible loss of life. But the caliber of folks that I'm used to working with are not intimidated by a fire, and they're not intimidated by opposition. And they want to march forward. I talked to my donors. I talked to those that have sponsored labor. I have people literally who are going to lift that church up and deal with the foundation. Roofers who are going to button up that steeple and that roof. We got a bigger job ahead of us now. But as the word went out about the fire, I thought people were going to fall away. And that hasn't happened. They're digging their heels in and redoubling their efforts. And it's poised. I've got a backlog, a log jam of people. I've got more help than I have jobs for them to do, obviously, right now. The organizational part is being developed. But as sure as I'm standing before you, I see that church being rebuilt and having it come back to what it was 200 years ago. And to, I guess, more directly answer your question, what our team envisions, and if you'd like, I will have Sonia elaborate more on the details, is a very traditional church and community center. We envision the entire first floor of that being just buzzing with activity on a daily basis, whether it's individual Bible studies, preparing food for Meals on Wheels. Sonia, can you give us just a few of the things on the list that you have planned for that first level?
I understand. I don't think this is the forum. If you folks want to have a public hearing with the board of directors and the town, that would be great, and go over all the stuff that you want to do. All we're concerned today with is if you folks are going to address the tax issue, then and keep the property. That's it. We don't have anything else to say. That's all we're here for. And that would be great for you to set up a, where are we going, Tom? On what?
I'm sorry, I didn't know you wanted a meeting, so
We wanted to meet with the board of directors.
Yes.
We did not expect anything like this.
That is
And then
enough.
all we wanted to talk to you about was the taxes, and if you were gonna keep the property. Not long ago, the impression that we got was that
If I can answer that.
Yep.
So I asked Bruce Sue for a meeting, and
To be
for a
public.
Sunday meeting,
Yep.
for a public meeting for the board of directors. We want to present our case. If you don't want to hear it, we will give you what you want, you can adjourn, and we can still come and talk to the public.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if that's all you want to hear.
Yeah.
Then, I just want to make it clear, I asked for a meeting, be open to the public so
Yep.
they would know.
Yep.
If you only have one or two agendas, I'm giving back to the chair.
All right,
Hold up. Let me address this as I'm the chair of the board. It's important for you to understand that the board just needs to know where you guys are going. And we understand that, you know, if you have ideas to move ahead in a different direction, that's great. But as far as the town planning, in how we can address things and help things go smoothly, we're just trying to get a reaction to you folks in a concise manner as to what you plan to do. And that's, I think, what Merle was saying is, we hear that you're going in the direction that maybe you want to rebuild the church, which is great. Can we narrow the scope down so we can bring it into a more concise manner, so that
Well,
we don't want this to
I would
be
be happy to cover it
and
today.
the other thing is, we can adjourn our meeting, and if the folks want to stay here and you want to stand here and present what your plans are for the church, then that's fine. But as far as the selectmen's meeting, there's no need for, all we wanted to do was find out whether you were going to continue on keeping the building and addressing the tax issue.
Let me
Because that's
go
the
right
biggest-
to that.
That's the biggest thing right now is because the tax deed comes up within another few weeks.
Correct.
So if you're going to address the tax problem, then that's all we're looking for. We wanted to know whether you wanted to keep the property and keep going,
Yeah.
or whether you were going to allow it to go,
All right,
go back to the town, because that's where it was headed before the fire.
all right, let me save my detailed comments for the audience after.
Yeah, if they want to stay here and you want to have a meeting,
I'll-
it's up to John also.
No problem.
That's the fire station.
I've often been characterized as being a very blunt instrument, so I think you'll be happy with my forwardness here. I've had direct experience with Pastor Connell for 4 years. I'm quite convinced the church, although aesthetically may not have met the palates of most folks in town, but he has functioned as a church and fulfilled his duties as such. We expect that as we move forward, it's going to be as a church. We expect tax exemption. To that end, I'm here as the new chair to ask if your select board would actually assign a liaison to work with us on the board moving forward, as one request I have for you. And second, my request is I like to offer an olive branch and ask for the board to consider forgiving the taxes. For the reasons that I've already stated, we would like to recommit our money to rebuilding the church. I had a check for $15,000, which I am going to have recut for $6,881.21 and brought into you early next week. If you decide that you don't want to accept the olive branch and continue the feuding, we'd rather not feed lawyers. We'd rather feed people. We're asking for tax forgiveness for obvious reasons and for a liaison to be appointed to our board.
We still have a, well, I guess you
two things. Number one, that would be a decision that the board would have to have a full board to make a decision. We're not going to make any decisions today. This is an informational meeting. As far as the liaisons of the board, I can't speak for the whole board. I can speak for myself. The purpose of having a board is so that you can better reflect the entire wishes of the community. So, in that instance, I think that would be highly inappropriate to have one person kind of speaking for the board and that member. It's not like it's a department head, per se, the transfer station that you're liaison between. That conversation should always be between the taxpayer entity, or the board, and the selectmen, in my opinion. As far as forgiving taxes, that would certainly have to be a vote of the entire board. I wouldn't have it any other way.
I'm not sure if we can forgive it, right? I mean, if we can only go back 1 year, anyway, is that correct?
You'd have to get legal.
Hmm?
You'd have to get legal opinion on that.
Okay. Basically, that's as far as we can go with 1 year, I think, and it goes back to 2011.
2011.
Yeah. So, and the only year that has been appealed is 2015, 2014. So,
An executive decision by your board could eliminate all that. I'd really like
I'm not
to
sure.
send
I know
lawyers
when
on
we're
both
doing,
sides.
I know when we're dealing with citizens, they can only appeal 1 year. That's as far as that is.
So, to answer your question, we love that church. We're going to maintain custody of it. Plans to clean up and rebuild are already underway, and that's the direction we're going. I, as the new chair, am going to be building teams, special teams for all kinds of things that are going to get this project done in the most efficient way as possible. That includes the outreach to the same folks that you answer to, the rest of the community. This has been a closed effort for way too long, and we need more hands on deck right now. I'm a little, I don't quite understand why you're hesitant to have a liaison if they don't have any real authority. It's just we would like to have a close connection and sharing of information, necessary information between your board and ours. I think for fluidity and moving forward, and to build a better relationship than what has historically existed. I'm not here to wage war with you folks or you folks. I am here to build a big team.
I understand what you're saying, Dave, and we'll certainly address some of these issues at the next meeting as far as you're asking for a liaison to the board. We'll also probably see some legal counsel as far as the tax situations to be advised. I agree with Merle. Number one, I don't think it's legal beyond the year. And number two, I'm not sure that it's the sentiment of the town. Beyond that, in my opinion, if you want to build a better relationship with this town and the board of selectmen and everybody in it, you need to address that with the town. We're not here to confront or to have any disagreements. We're here to find out information on how things are going to move forward. It's pretty simple. The guidelines that are set forth by the towns, they have parameters that they can work within. And when a taxpayer or a tax entity goes outside of that set of parameters, we only have so many choices. And so therefore, the board of directors has only allowed us to have so many parameters by their actions. So if you want the community to embrace you, then I suggest you think about how you approach these types of things. That's just my opinion. I don't know if Merle has anything to say.
I think we have covered what we were here for. All you have to do is address the tax problem and get that resolved. And all they have to do is pick 1 year, right? 2 years.
And 6,881.21.
There you go. And then you can do
It
whatever.
would be with the understanding, and we're doing this only under threat of losing the church. I'm not acquiescing that we owe taxes. That's got to be made absolutely clear.
That you can address with the townspeople. But I think the only thing we are here
address
for.
on the check is I submit it to you folks.
Okay.
It will be made very clear in the memo section that we do not feel we owe taxes. We are doing it to save our church.
Okay, good.
And just so you realize, that amount, the $6,000 amount, is the amount to keep that from going into tax deed. It's not to say that there's still an amount beyond that for back taxes before that. Just so you're clear on that, I think the total amount was 14 and
A
change.
little under.
I had to ask Bonnie to calculate us out to Friday the 15th, which is the check that we had prior to the fire.
It's not quite,
He had called me ahead of time and asked for a payout on the
as of,
15th of January.
okay.
But I do appreciate, you coming forward, the board coming forward and, thinking about how you guys are gonna address this. And it sounds like you have a plan in mind, but, as far as the board's concerned, that's the question we needed to get answered. You're certainly welcome to, stay here and talk to the townspeople, but
I'm very eager. If they would like to stay, I will field every question they have.
so at this time, we're gonna adjourn the meeting, the motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that. And I think it's a great, it would be wonderful to make that a lot.
I mean, it's not going sentiment. Is this something our new board can we count on the selectmen working with us to the extent that you can to revive that church back to what it was in the heyday? Can we count on it?
We can count on it, but, we can't, we certainly can't spend town funds on anything like that, so.
No, but I mean, maybe a piece of DPW equipment might be.
No, we can't, we can't give town property or town, anything to a private entity.
Well, cycle support.
Just our, attaboy. I believe it's a great thing that it's gonna be a community, center of the community, and that would be wonderful. Kind of somewhere else.
You understand that there's a clear definition between the town, any entity, specifically that's a religious entity, that the town government can't get involved in giving funds or giving use of it.
I understand and appreciate that. Conversely, we don't want a hostile board either. We want to know how we're going to be able to work with you, and there's clear battle lines. To deny that there is at this point, it defies common sense. We all see it. I'm going to start tearing this wall down, effective starting today. I'm asking you how can we begin a much more positive relationship as to the fathers of the town and our board. And I understand you take your pointers from the people, and I'm going to engage the public the moment you return, hopefully.
But we've adjourned. And personally, I take that as an affront to say that you have some kind of a battle line drawn, because I don't believe we have any battle going on. But that's what he said there are battle lines. Yes, and there are. As far as I'm concerned, there are none. And that's definitely insulting. So, weird stuff.
We'll be closed again,
Nothing against